beasts, aren't they? Chuffed to bits. The smallest little thornback. No, I'm just concentrating on not leaving the rod over the side. And its eyes. It's got amazing eyes. Doggy in the boat. Golden mullet. There's a bit of weight to that, you know. And that's what we want, don't we? We don't want the same all the time. We want something different, a good old show. Hello and welcome to the channel. On what is an absolutely glorious sunny day, I've got my big suit. I've had to strip to the waist because it's too warm. Forecast cold and winds, and we've got neither. It's beautiful in the sun. Got the bright yellow Daiwa bivvy, that's all up. I'm staying into darkness, so it might get a little bit breezy, a little bit chilly later on. Now then, what are we up to? We're beach fishing today, that's obvious. But what's this all about? So, throughout all of the films we've ever done on the channel, we always skip past this part. We skip past it, get to 2 rods in the water, and we're fishing. And some people ask, you know, how do you set up? What? So for those that know, for those seasoned experts, those pros, you might as well skip past. Skip past and watch another bit. Watch the rest, but don't watch this bit. So I'm going to rig up the rods. I'm going to rig one rod, and we'll use that as an example. So today, I'm fishing with the 6 and bait, any fish anywhere, 14-foot rods, and they're going to be the mainstay of the fishing for this season. All the little hints, tips and tricks. Out of the rod bags, a folded up rod bag has less chance of blowing down the beach than an opened rod bag. So either tuck that into your box, or, because I've got the shelter up, it goes into a back corner with the rod quiver and the rods. Right, so look after your rods as best you can. Check the spigot hasn't got any sand, grit or dirt on it. Check around the receiver on the butt section. And as soon as you put that in, if you feel grit, sand, double check it. Make sure that's clean. That will wear and destroy your rod quicker than anything else. So nice and smooth. And then by eye, line up the eyes. It's then worth holding the rod up at a distance and just see that it's all in line. If they're out of line, there's a chance of friction. It might reduce your cast. I very much doubt that. But what it might do if you're using a multiplier is help to put more restriction onto the line for a backlash, for a backspool. Bird's nest. So you put the rod together, and I've got a sliding reel seat, and a lot of rods do nowadays. I'm going to be fishing reel up, which is a common normal setup. If you were to fish reel down, 8 to 9 inches, or a finger span, finger to thumb, from the buttstock, it's about right. And that, for most, is a reel down position. I'm going to be fishing reel up. So to that end, hand on the bottom of the rod, comfortable to the top, and that's where I'm going to fish it. And it is approximately 3 hands length distances, spans up the rod. Notice there's still a little bit of room. That's personal to me. Everyone has their own preference. It's a good starting point. Onto the reels. These are Penn Fathom 2 casting specials, loaded with 20-pound line, 0.36mm. That's ASSO Ultra Cast, and ASSO Ultra Flex. What am I trying to say? ASSO Ultra Flex shock leader. Now I prefer, when I'm feeding and building my rod together, putting the reels on, to pull the line off under lighter drag, not disengage the spool. If you disengage the spool, you lose all control and everything's everywhere. That might have happened to some, and you'll know if I say it, it is a nightmare. So without moving my reel seat, lining up the centre of the reel spool to the centre of the eye, tighten down. And as it tightens down, it'll do 2 things. It will grip the reel, and the reel seat will grip the rod. Just check everything's in alignment. Give it a nice snug down without being brutal. That is just under drag. And then we feed our end of our shock leader through the eyes of the rod. Try and stay in camera shot because it is a long rod. All 14 feet of it. There's someone else walking down the beach here. He's going to pinch me spot. That might be young Colin Matthews. Pull the shock leader all the way down, back down to the reel, and we're now ready to add our rig. I'm going to put this on the rod rest, prep and bait a rig, and then we'll clip up and we'll fire it out. I'll be back with you in a minute. The rig that I'm using today is a 5-foot pulley. 5-foot pulley, pretty much an arm span, finishing in a Gemini grip lead with a solo splashdown, and that's a 6-ounce weight. The hook snood, 5 foot, albeit short of an inch, is tipped off with a pair of Kamasan 54010 hooks, and I've deliberately gone that small because that's what's actually been suggested to me, and I'm always a lesson learner, always looking for things that can help me out, improve my fishing, stuff that comes through the channel. Always willing to learn. There's so much to learn. I'm just looking for my elastic. It's escaped me. I should have had it ready, shouldn't I? That's too thick. I had some thin, fine elastic ready to go. Where's that gone now? Oh, you've lost it. Weights, stuff, lights, bait. Where is my elastic gone? Ah, don't tell me I've left it in the van. That's a possible. Okay, looks like I've left my... oh no, there we go. It was hiding. My elastic was hiding. I've just spent the last 10 minutes looking for it. Fine elastic. Alright, here's the next top tip I've been given. Flask. You might recognise this from previous. I'm using small baits today, and I'm not a small baits kind of guy. But this is what's been suggested to me. I was using too big of baits. And when they're out there looking for these things, they're not out there looking for big bait. They're out there looking for teeny weeny little sand eels. And then to keep them frozen so that they're easier to use, keep them in a flask. So they're staying in that flask. Keep the bait as frozen for as long as possible. That was the tip. Cut it off through the eyes. Got cut off a tiny bit because otherwise there'd be none of it left. And off a little bit of the tail. Oh dear, this is all good stuff. All good stuff. Okay, and now 1/0 hooks. So down through the side of the sand eel, about 1/3 of the way down, and back out near where the gill rakers are, and then lay the hook beside it. We're going to use some fine elastic, and this is where my sausage fingers let me down. Look at that. That is tiny elastic. Got a job to see it. It's like carp fishing stuff. Right, so there we go. That's off. And then the pennel. This is going to be difficult, isn't it? This is all fiddly. Fiddly. Right, 1, 2. I've possibly got too strong a hook snood on this. I can see it already. In and out the sand eel. Tighten up slightly. And that is a tiny sliver of sand eel. Well, it's a tiny sand eel with some 1/0 hooks sticking out of it. It's like a trap. Laying out the traps, like bear traps. Get them in. And then to clip up, it's easier to do this upside down. Open the disc, pull the disc up, trap the hook inside, and that is the rig that's going to clip onto the rod. So we'll clip it on the rod and we'll get it out, eh? That's a tiny bait. I'm not used to using baits that small. I'm willing to give it a go though. That's what's going out. Let's go. So here we are back at the rod rest at the tripod, and I've clipped up my bait. So here's my trace. I'm going to clip it onto the shock leader. And that's all secure, still clipped up. And there's a couple of things we need to check now. First one, where my shock leader knot is. Second, that I've got a decent amount of drag. And my drop. My drop at the moment is too long. And I've got a mark on my rod that I can use, and it's the start of the sticker for the Any Fish Anywhere. Okay, make sure it's free to go and you're ready to cast. Now you can overhead thump this, you can pendulum this, you can off the ground cast, you can do all those things, but it's the first one of the day. So I'm going to check my mag settings. I'm going to go out, 1, 2, 3, 4, disengage the spool. I'm ready to cast. It's going to be a gentle one, this one. I'm going to go down to the waterfront and do it from down there. Get a bait in the water, eh? Can't catch anything until we do. With a grip weight now cast out, and I've cast it up tied, the grips on the lead have dug in. The last thing to do now is to check the drag. You never know if you can have a significant fish, and I like to have the clickers on. Just in case I'm doing something else, it gives me an audible warning that something's going on, and then position the rod and the rest. So I've got the rod tip set. That would have detached from the weight. The weight is up tied. The bait will now be down tied and just sitting on the bottom, and it'll be almost like a triangle back to the rod tip. There's a slight bend in the rod, so you can also see if there's a slack line bite or a pull down bite or just an inquiry. That's one rod set. I've just got to rinse and repeat. I've got to do it to the same to the other one. And I can see a paddle boarder coming up along the coast. He better not take out my line. Colin Matthews is fishing behind me. Hopefully between us, I'm going to winkle something out. Better get to it.